Welcome to Papa's Workshop. Well, I've got a big surprise for you today. This just arrived by UPS and I want to open it up and show it to you today. So let's get started. Got to get this inside. It's still cold outside. I'm very pleased to be able to tell you that the folks at the Cutech Support Center have been fantastic to be able to work with. Now, they provided to me this 8-inch joiner that actually is turning out to be fantastic. They asked for an honest review, and that's what I'm going to give to you. And over the coming months, as I use this in the shop, you will be able to see more and more exactly how this performs. But I do want to say that this is a sponsored video by them and the fact that they provided to me this 8-inch benchtop joiner to be able to test and demonstrate and review for you today. I can't tell you how just excited that I am at having an 8-inch joiner in the shop. This is going to be so much of an advantage to be able to make the flat boards that I need to be able to make furniture, cutting boards, and anytime that I need a flat panel, this is the way to go. And I have struggled over the years to be able to use the table saw. I have used the router table, all in an effort to be able to make the panels flat. And this joiner is going to solve all those problems and make it so much easier. That's right. This is the new Cutech 8-inch joiner that I just received. And I want to show you today how we're going to set this up and we're going to do some cuts with it. And I can't wait. We've got some tools. We've got the handle for this. We've got the safety button, and we've got some washer screws and a couple of Allen wrenches in here. All right, here we go. Let's see what it looks like. Everything is packaged very neatly. There's the fence. So there's the new joiner. I think this is going to be a fantastic addition to the shop. Let's go ahead and get it assembled. There's not a whole lot to be able to do. And we'll get ready to be able to test this. Now, the first thing I want to do is show you everything that comes with this joiner. The first thing is we have the fence bracket and the sliding bracket for the fence. And of course, we've got the fence itself. We've got the 2 push blocks that you're going to be needing. We have a T-wrench along with 2 other Allen wrenches. One of them is a 2.5 millimeter and the other one is a 4 millimeter. And then we've got the safety switch that actually will plug right into here. We have the vacuum hose adapter. And we've also got 2 of the little button head screws here with the little button head screws with the little socket slots on it, a washer, and we've got the handle to be able to adjust the fence. So that's everything that comes with this joiner. So now let's go ahead and get this put together. To begin the assembly, I need to remove these 4 screws, and this bracket is going to go right on to this area. Now it's nice having these screws already in position. That way you don't have to hunt for them. So I'm just going to go ahead and take these out. That actually might be faster doing it that way. There we go. And now we take this fence bracket, and that's just going to slide right up into here, and it goes into, the screw will go into those holes. Okay, the fence bracket is on now and secure. The next thing that I want to assemble is the fence onto the sliding fence bracket. Now it's important to note that this, with this little small cutout, is actually the bottom of the fence. On the back side, you'll notice how this is tapered. The square part is the top. To be able to assemble it, we're going to use this track, and we're going to use the button screws. Now to be able to assemble this, we're going to use the button head screws along with this square nut, and this will slide right into this track. So I'm going to go ahead, slip that right in there. Now there is a right and wrong way. If you'll notice, this has a little flat area on each side. So that needs to slide in this direction. And that slides right into position. Now I'll take the fence, and remember, this is the bottom, so it's got to be on this side. And I'm going to remove this screw, drop it down in place, and be able to put it right into that square nut. And I'll just screw that down. I don't want it real tight at this point, because I still want it to be able to slide, because I want to be able to slide it over and get it aligned with the other nut on this side. And then I'll just screw this in. And I'm going to slide that to approximately the center. And I'll just lightly tighten this down for right now. Then I'll take this assembly, I'll take this over, and literally just set it right down on top. And now see, that will slide. This right here is the handle that we'll use to be able to attach that. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and put this fence about halfway across onto the bed of the joiner. That makes putting in that handle a whole lot easier. Now to be able to attach that, you want to go ahead and take this rectangle shaped nut off. We're going to put this washer onto this, and then we'll slide it down in place. And then this nut will go into the slot at the bottom and tighten up. Just like that. To be able to remove this now, I can slide this back. And people will say, see how this will touch? Well, you can just lift up, turn this and then tighten it down. And that way it's almost like a ratchet. It's just spring-loaded in there so that you can lift it up and then tighten it. So this really is not a problem having these two this close together. But this does make it where you can easily adjust the fence. Same thing with this one. You can just lift it and get it out of the way. And that's all there is to it. So this will turn in any direction without loosening the screw. And then you can tighten it. Now with this unplugged, I want to be able to show you this cutter head itself. This is considered a spiral cutting head. And the reason that you know that, you can see how these create a spiral around this cylinder. This is not a hexagonal cutting head, because that would be where these were lined up much closer together. But this is still a very effective cutting head, and it works extremely well. The nice thing about it, each one of these cutters can be rotated. So in essence, you could change this 4 different times and have 4 different brand new cutting surfaces. So that is a huge advantage over the traditional straight blades that you see on some benchtop jointers. This is also indexed right here at this corner on each one of them. So as you rotate these blades, you know exactly which cutter that you're using and when it's time to be able to say, yep, I've used all 4 edges and it's time to be able to replace them. So this is a huge advantage over, in my opinion, the straight cutting blades. At the factory, this table is actually preset, and these are the screws right here that you can make adjustments if you need to be able to get it parallel and straight to this cutter head. And on the end feed table, you have 4 screws over here that you can do the same thing to be able to adjust it. And in the instructions, it actually explains step by step how to do that. But this is factory set. So I want to be able to confirm that it is correct. And if it is, of course, I'm not going to do anything to it. Now what I like to be able to do is just take a drafting triangle and be able to set that on there, because that is the flattest, straightest thing that I have. And I want that where it just barely touches that tooth. And that is perfect. And I can check all of these, and it is absolutely perfect. So that's exactly what you want. Now that I know that the outfeed table is exactly parallel to the cutter, I want to check the fence itself. And if I look over here and look down that line, there is absolutely no gap whatsoever. So that fence is 100% accurate, 90 degrees to this outfeed table. On the infeed side, I want to check this also. And again, looking right down that line, there is no gap at all. So that is perfect. Now, should you have to adjust it, over here, you have a set screw that actually is preset by the factory again to be able to have it right at this stop at the 90 degrees. Now, this fence will actually rotate up to 135 degrees. The other stop is right here, and that one is preset again. Now we're going to change this and adjust it to the 135 degrees and see if that is accurate. The only way that I can check this is be able to put this one right up to this point and then slide this one, which is a 45 degree, down to this point. And if you notice, I'm going to try to do this with my 2 hands. There is a slight gap right here that we need to be able to adjust. So I need this to be able to tilt just a little bit more. That set screw pushes right down onto this piece of metal right here to be able to set exactly where it needs to be. Now when I take my triangle and put it right here, and I slip the other one right down to this point. Now you'll notice here, I have about half of the distance that I had to begin with. So I'm gonna make a slight adjustment again. So I'll put that in there. I'm gonna loosen this just a little. Make about 1/8 of a turn. And we'll check that. And that's going the wrong direction. So we'll loosen that to right there, and we'll tighten that back. Okay, now I have a little bit gap at the top, so I'll make a small adjustment now. Back to that point right there. And we'll slide that down. And there we go. Now I have no gap at all. That is perfect. Now to dial this in, I just made small adjustments, about 1/8 of a turn, and once I got a little bit too far, then I backed off about half of that distance of my last correction, and now I want to show you the results by just making that small little adjustment. And we'll slide that down, and there we go. Now I have no gap at all. That is perfect. So now I'm just going to go ahead and rotate this back to my 90 degrees. And we'll lower that fence down to right there. I'm going to pull this out and rotate it so it's not going to hit this one. And then I can go ahead and tighten that. Just to double check. I'll put that down there, and you can see it is perfect. So this stop is working exactly dead on, and this stop over here is now dead on. Now the next thing I want to do is take a long straight edge, and I want to put it right on the table. I have my depth gauge set to 0, and that sits exactly flat all the way across. The other thing that I want to be able to check is how this bar for the extensions line up exactly where it needs to be also. Now if I look over on the other side, you can see that this one just touches as well. So that's about as straight as you can possibly get it. Now the only other thing that I want to do is go ahead and extend these out. And we'll do the same thing. And I'll put this on there. And that, there's no rocking at all. That sits perfectly flat. Let me go ahead and extend the other one. And if I put this now all the way across, there is no movement at all. That is set exactly the way that it needs to be. So the factory did an outstanding job of setting this up and tuning this table base to be able to fit. I'm just going to go ahead and put those back in. Now the last thing I want to show you is the dust port. This dust port is actually already screwed in, and I strongly suggest that you use some type of dust collection, either a shop vac or the dust collector for the whole shop. And this is set up as a 4-inch pipe. And on my dust collection system, I have the 4-inch, and this will just slip right over. Now I also have the clamps that I will use to be able to hold that in position. But should I not use the central dust collection system, I can also use the shop vac. In the shop vac, I can put this adapter in. This will slip right in there, and then that will slip right in. So that works absolutely perfect. Now that's the 2.5-inch adapter. This guard has a spring that's right underneath here, and it also is preset by the factory. And the whole idea behind that is that it's going to close by itself to be able to cover those blades. And that's very, very important to be able to maintain this and make sure that it is on. Should you need to adjust it, it also shows how to do that in the manual. But you can go ahead and take these 2 screws, loosen them, take that off, and while you're holding this, you can turn this counterclockwise to make it tighter. But again, this is preset by the factory and it works perfect. Next feature that I want to show you is this mechanism here. This is the locking knob to be able to hold this in-feed plate in position. So if you want to be able to adjust it, you loosen it, and then by turning this screw, you can actually lower the in-feed table. And you have this handy gauge right here to be able to make those small adjustments. You also have a scale on here in millimeters as well as in inches. Now I have a piece of cedar that I want to run through, but I want to talk about the grain. You want to be able to run it with the grain. And you see how this grain is coming down in this direction. That is running with the grain. If I turned around and went the other direction and the grain is running this way, when that cutter comes into it, you're going to get chips and tear out. So you want to make sure that you're running with the grain and it's going like this. So let's go ahead and run a piece and let's see how it does. Now I'm going to put some lines across here, and you can already see where this portion has torn out just from the material itself. And that shows you how that grain has come to the end. So if I ran it through the wrong direction, that would chip out even more. You can see how that cut very, very smooth and clean, and it took away most of this. Now I'm going to run this through 1 or 2 more times, and I think you'll see where that is going to disappear entirely. And you can see now that is perfectly smooth and beautiful with a nice sharp crisp edge. I'm going to rotate this up and be able to cut this now and get a nice 90-degree angle here. And that is absolutely beautiful. So I've got two surfaces now, absolutely perfect. The dust collection system, the central dust system, it's working fine. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and put the vacuum on this and see how it does with that. Slip that in. Put that right in there, and we'll turn on the vacuum. So again, the cutting is absolutely beautiful, and this dust collection with the shop vac work equally as well. I want to thank everybody for watching today, and I also want to thank Cutech for providing this outstanding 8-inch joiner for me to share with you.